My name's Julian and I teach criminal justice at the University of Oxford. I've authored the very short introduction to criminal justice. Here are 10 points you need to know about criminal justice. First, the criminal justice system, unlike the healthcare system where there's a single goal, the welfare of the patient, criminal justice has multiple and often competing aims and objectives. So it has to attend to the needs and interests of the crime victim, at the same time balancing that with the rights of the defendant to a fair trial. Second, there are two primary goals, effectively, in the criminal justice system: to prevent crime and to punish offenders when they have been convicted of a crime. Of these two goals, one's a lot easier to achieve than the other. It's very easy to punish somebody by restricting their liberty in various ways or fining them. But preventing crime is quite difficult for the criminal justice system, and the reason for that is that the causes of the crime lie outside the reach of the criminal justice system. Thirdly, case attrition is an issue in the criminal justice system, and by that we mean the dropout of cases as they proceed through the criminal justice system. So only a minority of crimes are actually reported to the police. The police only lay a charge in a minority of the crimes that are reported to them, and so on. So at the end of the day, a sentencing court is imposing sentence in only a very small cases of all offenders in the society. Fourth, crime, of course, varies enormously from trivial crimes to the most serious intentional taking of human life. But offenders also vary: their motivations, the ways in which they commit their crimes, their levels of culpability and harm. And the consequence of that is that the criminal justice system needs discretion. Professionals, whether they're police officers, prosecutors, sentencing judges, or parole boards, need discretion to respect and to respond to the individual circumstances and the huge variation in criminal conduct and criminal offenders. Fifth, offenders vary greatly in their circumstances, but there are certain categories of offender that we treat differently, and for good reason. Young offenders are a good example of this. Young offenders are different from adults. They haven't developed to the same extent, and any intervention in their lives is going to have much more serious consequences. So criminal justice systems around the world treat young offenders very differently. Many people don't understand the importance of that. Six, the criminal law, of course, applies equally to everyone, but the criminal justice system pays more attention to some individuals and groups in society than others. Visible minorities in Western nations are far more likely to be stopped by the police, are far more likely to account for prison admissions, and this is one of the most important and pressing problems confronting Western criminal justice. Seven, criminal justice systems vary enormously in the way that they punish offenders. So, for example, if you're convicted of a serious crime in Germany, resulting in, let's say, 1 year in prison, that same crime, that same criminal conduct would probably get you 10 years in prison in the United States. 8, many people think that prison's the answer to crime, and for certain offenders it is, it must be. But placing somebody in prison for a year costs about the same as placing them in a nice London hotel. So we have to be very careful in who we send to prison and for how long, simply because it costs so much money. 9, it's an unfortunate reality that prisons in Western societies generally make people worse. They go to prison, they're deprived of their families, they lose their employment, and we're not very good at retraining them and rehabilitating them. 10, when people are sent to prison, in some countries they serve every day of the prison sentence inside. This doesn't work very well. The best prison regimes are those that allow offenders to apply for and to serve the last portion of their sentence in the community, where they can be assisted and supervised to ensure that they don't reoffend and that they make a smooth and orderly transition back to open society.